If you visit Canada today, you'll find that there are people of different nationalities who now call the country their home. From Asians like the Indians and the Chinese to Africans like Nigerians and Ghanaians, the list is endless. And this makes Canada one of the most diverse places in the world. But if anyone were to ask you why Canada is such an attractive immigration destination today, what would be your answer? This was the question someone asked me recently at the airport lounge in Amsterdam, motivating me to provide at least 5 reasons why Canada is one of the most attractive immigration destinations in the world as we speak right now. Please join me as I unveil each reason one after the other. I would also recommend that this may just be the best time for you to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on other travel destination videos that this channel promises to bring your way. Now, let's start from number 5. To begin, let's start by saying that overall safety is a crucial factor when considering a place to visit or a place to live in. And as of 2024, Canada is ranked as the safest country in the world for travelers according to Berkshire Hathaway Travel Protection. The country has one of the lowest crime rates globally, with a very strict gun and firearm control law when compared to its neighbor, the United States of America.
We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership.
Canada is known to uphold very high standards when it comes to the safety of people, and the response time for health safety emergencies are very impressive. It is interesting to mention that if one is a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, they can access certain basic health care free of charge. So why wouldn't Canada be an attractive immigration destination? At number 4 on my list is what I would call quality of life. Now, there is no argument that everyone wants a good life. I deserve a good life. You deserve a good life. But the reality is that the quality of life one can live largely depends on several factors, one of which is the country that one lives in. Now, Canada has over the years been ranked in the top 3 countries in the world with the best quality of life. And how do we determine the quality of life in a place? To answer this question, we have to look at things like overall life expectancy, economic and political stability, income stability, education, healthcare, and many more other factors. In my bid to make this conversation as straightforward as possible, all the things I mentioned above are indices that Canada ranks pretty high on, comparable only to countries doing equally well in Europe like Germany, Switzerland, Denmark, but Canada ranks at the very top amongst all of these countries. Many people already know this, and based on the various reports in public spaces, it has added to the reasons why so many people are eager and interested to pick Canada as a travel destination. Do you agree that the quality of life one can live in Canada is very high? Tell me what you think in the comments as we go on to number 3. Moving on to number 3, let's now consider the various migration pathways that are legally available for people who want to migrate to Canada and how easy it is to become a Canadian citizen. Canada is one of the countries in the world that has several pathways for anyone who intends to legally migrate into the country. I'm not an immigration consultant, neither am I an immigration expert, so I'll try to be careful not to be too specific or detailed in my explanation here. But I know some programs that the Canadian government have put in place for people who want to call Canada their new home, and this includes express entry, provincial nomination programs, family sponsorship, business investments or investors, work permits, student permits. The list is long, and if you go to the Canadian immigration website, you'll get detailed information of all the pathways you can use to come into Canada. I'm also aware of the lenient process for which international students are able to become permanent residents. Unlike places like the UK, for instance, where I have heard it is not easy for people who studied there to work or become permanent residents. Again, I'm not an expert, so I won't dive into details on this point. I, however, don't need to be an immigration expert or a consultant to know that Canada is one of the fastest places in the world where one can obtain citizenship after becoming a permanent resident. One only needs to stay a cumulative of 3 years within a 5 years period to become eligible. This straightforward practice is not the case in many other countries around the world, where the wait time to citizenship is so long and complicated. If there's anything that would attract people to migrate to a new country, it's definitely the knowledge that there's a well-structured and defined framework to become a citizen. Why not Canada then? At number 2, I would now like to look at the strengths of the Canadian passport. When I talked about the process of any citizenship, I am sure you would all agree that while the citizens of every country get their country's passports, not all passports in the world have as much value. I'm not here to shade anybody's passport, but it's the truth. Would I rather have an American passport versus having a Ghanaian passport? No shades to my Ghanaian brothers, but let's be honest to ourselves here. The Canadian passport is one of the strongest passports in the world, and that is on facts. It cannot be argued. Let me put some context to it. So the Canadian passport is currently ranked 6th on the Guide Passport Index, with visa-free access to 146 countries and visa on arrival to 37 countries, thereby opening several doors of opportunities for global travels and investments. Who wouldn't want a Canadian passport? I would have a Canadian passport anytime, any day. And for that reason, a lot of people are eager to migrate to Canada, and that is why Canada is a favorable immigration destination. We have come to the last point, which is my number 1 point. By no means the least or the most important point, but I decided that I'll go with what I call dignity in labor and the low rates of unemployment. Clearly, one of the drivers for migration is a means of livelihood, and this dates back to generations upon generations from the days of the early humans. Historical reports actually proves this. Everyone needs food for survival, and if we consider the Maslow hierarchy of needs, basic survival of humans is always the fundamental. So if everyone needs food for their survival, and for anyone who intends to eat, they must be ready to work. So people are generally drawn, attracted, motivated to move towards places where they believe their chances of survival is significantly higher. And for people in many parts of the world, Canada is that oasis in the desert. Although the cost of living in Canada is generally high, the rate of unemployment is extremely low for a country with a high cost of labor. When all of these factors are considered together in a mix, we find that it is relatively easy to get decent jobs that can sustain one's family. And for that reason, Canada has become a place where people in developing countries that are struggling with employment migrate to get better employment and a better quality of life and all that. So to conclude, the intention of this video was to discuss the reasons Canada is now a fancied immigration destination, and I believe the 5 points presented clearly explains it. I don't think it is exhaustive, but I just felt I could pick those 5 to make a case. I would like you to be part of the conversation. Please tell me, which reason do you agree with the most? Which better reason do you think I didn't mention? And which of the ones I mentioned do you disagree with? Share your thoughts in the comments, and I would be more than happy to engage. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have subscribed to the channel, and I hope you have also liked this video. Till I see you in the very next video, do stay safe and stay well. From me to you, it is peace and of course lots of love. Catch ya.